Perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Just want to introduce myself very quickly. So, yeah, I'm Nick, and some of you might not have necessarily heard of SeenThis, so I'm going to just go very, very quickly introduce ourselves and what we do. So, we're a technology provider, and we specialize in streaming digital creative, and we have a very cool vision, which I think is personally cool, but I'm incredibly biased with that, is that we want to create a faster internet with a smarter footprint. But that is enough about me, because I'm sure I might catch up with a few of you later. But I'm really pleased to be joined today by the wonderful Shruti. Shruti is joining us from Haleon, and I will pass over to you to do a quick introduction.
Thank you so much, Nick. Hi, everyone. My name is Shruti, and I'm the Global Media Procurement lead for Haleon. Quick question to all of you, except for Abby there. How many of you have heard of Haleon? Oh, okay. So that's a surprise for me because I was pretty sure that, after our departure from GSK, not too many of you would know who we are. But for those who don't, we basically own brands like Sensodyne, Tums, Panadol, Aquafresh, Polident. So you've definitely heard of us, if not used us. And we have recently, like I said, departed from GSK Pharma, and now we are our own standalone company, and we're doing really well. So I'm happy to be here and to talk to all of you about how we got here.
Cool. So let's begin. Now, I've been very fortunate. I've been here all morning, and there's been some really, really interesting and exciting content. And I think we can all go through and say that the marketing landscape, it's in the midst of transformation, right? It's changing, and there's things like personalization, omni-channel experiences, building trust. They're all paramount, right? So what we want to do with this session is we want to delve into that and understand it from the point of Haleon. So let's begin. So healthcare marketing hinges on creating positive consumer experiences. This entails providing informative content, clear communication, and seamless omni-channel experiences. So my first question would be, how does Haleon ensure brands message consistency across all marketing channels? So looking at both online and offline, and can you share some examples with us?
Sure. So I think where I'd start with is a little bit of a bigger picture because, as I was saying, we used to be a part of GSK, GlaxoSmithKline, and in 2022, we spun off into our own organization. And as you can understand, by shedding the pharma legacy, we have been able to transform ourselves into a more agile organization. And 2023 was, a year of transformation for us from a marketing perspective because we embarked on this journey of marketing effectiveness, which I think a lot of other advertisers of a similar scale have also been engaging with. And by that, what I mean is, we, from an omni-channel strategy perspective, we really started looking at a consumer-centric thinking. And what that meant is that, let's say from a media standpoint, rather than just being with the traditional media places of, let's say, television or YouTube, we really started expanding into the emerging media landscape. So we have, started getting into the KOL space, or we've started getting into spaces like microblogs or audio streaming. And Publicis has been a wonderful partner for us in keeping us innovative, keeping us ahead of the the market, and making sure that we are truly consumer-centric. If I can, maybe talk about a little bit of, something that's unique to Haleon, which probably is more because we are in the healthcare space, would also be the marketing that we do via our export channel. And that would really go into, probably healthcare practitioners or making sure that we are meeting consumers at their point of need, right? Rather than spray and pray. So that's really been the approach that we have taken to marketing. What we have also looked at very specifically is how do we change our own internal marketing DNA, and with that we started building out the right foundation for ourselves. So for instance, we now have a platform by the name of Lumina, which is where we have all of our media data, all of our media plans, all of the media spends, everything sitting in one place. And how that really helps is to make sure that all of our inciting work, all of the work that we do in analysis is all data backed, and we don't have to waste resources or time on being able to get that data. We actually have that data at the click of a button when we need it. What I can also talk about is potentially that, we've changed our marketing strategy from being, like I was saying, a spray and pray strategy to more of a well-balanced strategy between long and short marketing, right? And how we look at making sure that we are being able to build brand equity at the same time as being able to emphasize on sales and promotions, right? So it's been a journey of innovation. It's been a journey of getting to the right place through doing a lot of these, foundational level changes and making sure that our strategy really speaks to being able to reach a consumer at the right point in time.
Cool. There's a lot in there. No, that's really interesting. I think kind of the ones that I wanted to build on was when we were talking in the build up to this, we spoke a lot about like everything that you're doing, the various different channels and how complex and how challenging that can be, right? It can throw up a lot of unique challenges. But I think what you mentioned there about the Luma platform and different things like that, I think that's really interesting, right? Because that's going to help in terms of like how do we look at things like quality from the various different media investments. So I think from there, let's segue into that, and let's have a look at that quality. So I want to ask the question of how what are the key considerations that you have when it comes into all of that? Now you said you've got a lot of data that goes into that platforms, but how do you evaluating the quality of your media investments?
So I think if we talk about quality, it's just such a huge space that we're working on for the last, I think, 2 years now. Just being able to pivot from, again, the pharma legacy of having a lot of focus on efficiency to having a huge focus on effectiveness as we move forward. And what that essentially entails for us is how are we going to be able to get a low interest category like ours, where people don't really, it's not a car that you're buying, or it's not, even cosmetics that you're buying. You don't even get that, right? We are a toothpaste brand. So how do you get the right eyeballs at the point of purchase? That's really, where we have tried to emphasize our, effectiveness journey. And in partnering with, our media team, which builds out the strategy for all of this, what we have been able to do is meet the consumer at that right point of time. Let's say, for example, if I talk about quality in TV, then it's really been about driving the right placement. It's been about driving the right GRPs. It's about not being in the graveyard shift. It's about, for example, contextual fitment, right? So if we are selling Voltaren as a brand, then Voltaren consumers are potentially those who are going to be watching live sports, or who are going to be looking at a yoga commercial, right, or a yoga training video. So how do we get to them at that point? This is our, let's say this is the way that we are approaching television, but for digital, it's a very different approach where it's not just context or, the limitations that you put on it, but it's really about making sure that we're reducing wastage, or, making sure that we are owning our tech stack, making sure that we are being pragmatic with the way we buy and, really pivoting from open auctions to, private auctions to, PG deals, things like that. So that's how we have made sure that we are working on the quality component. We are also very emphatically trying to go back in time a little bit, which I think will catch some people by surprise. But I think the COVID, phase is over now, and people are back out on the streets. So we do need to look at diversifying our media portfolio, which had become very binary over the last few years of being only TV and digital. So we are on purpose trying to get into radio again, or outdoor, or print, because there is a consumer need that is addressed by advertising in those spaces. So that really helps. I think that's how we are really looking at building quality media for ourselves. And, we are not just a company of marketers. So, just doing the right marketing things doesn't work. I obviously, represent procurement. So this needs to deliver value. And that's where, our partners, MediaSense, come in, and they really help us identify how we are going to be able to deliver the right media, but at also the right price point, so that our finance teams don't get too mad at us. And I think the final point to make over there is it's not just about value, but it's also about values. And over there, we are really trying to make sure that we are diversifying our media. We are reaching out to the minority groups, or we're trying to be as ethnically diverse as possible. But that's obviously more of the Western side of the world when I talk about ethnic diversity, because on the Eastern side of the world, let's say Japan or China, you don't really have to worry about that so much as you need to look at targeting the right, so for example, specially abled individuals, or individuals with special needs. So how do you target the right kind of consumers is a strong core focus for us as we move forward.
Lovely. Yeah, so again, I think one of the key things that I picked out from there is kind of in the overarching thing around effectiveness as a whole, and there was a lot of talked about value, making sure we're getting return on investment for everything that we're doing from an advertising perspective. But let's dive a little bit into how you actually go about measuring the success of all of that, because there's lots of different countries, lots of different channels, lots of different media points. How's that work?
Okay, so measurement has been one of my CMO. Her name is Mr. Mara Rogers. She's an excellent marketer, visionary, and measurement is something that is very close to her heart, right? And she has helped us with really bringing in discipline as an organization, with being able to measure the things that we do. So for example, the platform that I spoke about earlier, Lumina, it helps us get the data there so that we can measure it. But to be able to measure the inputs over there, we have something called always on MMMs, right? So MMMs which keep going on periodically every quarter, every half year, which can help us understand how effective is the media that we are putting out there. We look at it obviously obsessively, and we always try to make sure that we're not just doing a retro, like a post-mortem analysis, but also making sure that our future investments are going the right way. The other thing that we really are very passionate about measuring is our impact on the planet, and making sure that we are as sustainable as we can be. So, partners like yourselves, SeenThis, they fit in beautifully with our overall objective of being friendly to the planet, because we all have children and we want to leave the planet in a good place. So that's the other thing. I think if we can just talk about something absolutely mundane, which everyone should implement, is let's say, even if we just talk about reducing MFAs, right, and reducing wastage that happens on digital media. Today, digital media MFA carbon footprint is what, 26%, right? About 33% of all of the media that you put out on digital via open auction is likely to be MFA. How are we building a better world given all of that is something that we are very, very keen to measure. And we partner with Scope 3, we partner with, Publicis brings in a lot of that insight as well. So that's where we build out that measurement for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's a really interesting point, in the sense of when we kind of look at things like wastage, it's not just necessarily wastage on the spend that necessarily comes into things, but as I mentioned at the beginning, it's one of the parts that SeenThis is very passionate about, and we look at wastage in the terms of data wastage, because I'm sure a lot of us are familiar in the room now because of the education that happens across the industry, where we talk about the internet as a really big polluter, right? I think it's now up to be 4% of all greenhouse gas emissions, which is actually now above the aviation industry. And I remember when I started going on this journey, it was a journey where that actually really surprised me. But when you think about it in terms of like content distribution, advertising, it has to go through multiple different pillars, right? It has to go through CDNs, it has to go through network towers, goes through devices, ad servers, and everything from like this. And that's a really interesting point when you bring that into the consideration for how media investments are done. Because it's really important that when we look at things like supply path optimization, which you spoke about, Shruti, and then looking at the MFA side of things, it's making those smarter decisions as well, which are also going to have greater impacts on how you go about minimizing the wastage from your investments. And I think that's a good point. And and it leads us nicely on to sort of like the next question, because when we spoke, and what I think you've done a fantastic job of putting here is like, it's kind of, you're in a really good position where you actually take control. And that's really cool. And you're potentially owning your own tech stack. So it would be great if you can share a little bit more about that side of things.
Sure. I think the journey for owning a lot of the tech that we operate media on started back in 2018 for Haleon GSK at least, and we have only evolved from that space. There has been a lot of focus on owning our own tech, especially for the fact that it delivers three major benefits, right? The first one is obviously it allows for a lot of control, right? And if I talk about it from a purely procurement lens, and anybody who's touched a legal contract over here will understand the rights that we have as an agent versus the rights that we get as the principal buyer of technology. It has a huge impact on how much transparency we can drive, on how much audit we can run over there, on really our ability to control the entire the programmatic poop funnel, if I can call it that, right? I don't know how many of you have seen that little GIF, but it's really, really amazing that out of all of the media that you're putting out there, about 97% is effectively poop, right? And yes, best case estimates, about 3 to 36% of the media that you buy via open auctions is landing to the right consumer and is visible, is measurable. So if that's your, that's the part that you can play with, it's a third of your media that's actually going to reach a buyer, a potential consumer. In which case, then, owning your own tech stack is the only way you can look at expanding that 36% to potentially 50%, 60%, 80%, right? Today, we own all of our DSP contracts. We own our SSP contracts. We try and restrict the seller to reseller, the primary, secondary, tertiary buying ecosystem that exists. We try and restrict it as much as possible. We try and do as many PG deals. We try and buy as much direct with publisher as we can. And those are our simple ways of ensuring that we are being able to own a lot of this through to be able to control a lot of it. Obviously, this is just one part of the benefit that it offers. The other is the rate control. And again, sorry, I'm going to be talking procurement for a minute, but the fact of the matter is that when 66% of your dollar is going down the drain, right, whether it's because of non-viewability, whether it's because of non-measurability, whichever way you look at it, right, MFAs, etc., everything is impacting that dollar that you're putting in the funnel. If you want to be able to restrict that 66% from being pooped out, in that case, you need to be able to make sure that you are owning your contract so that you can get the rebates, you can get the discounts, you can talk to the SSPs directly, and make sure that you are getting the best value out of that particular supply chain. And that's where it really plays a big part in terms of owning our own tech. The last advantage is obviously, again, like I mentioned at the start, we are a low interest category, which means we don't have a lot of first party data. And in the absence of that first party data, we need to have a long-term strategy of owning our own tech, because as wonderful as all of our partners are, we need to be prepared for an agency agnostic world, right? Like the cookie depreciation that we all went through, we need to be also ready that if our tech partners should change, we don't want to lose out on all of that legacy that's been built out of having the right consumer data over there in the machines.
Cool, and I've got additional questions there. But obviously you're in, is it 92 different countries?
Yeah, 92.
Yeah, 92 different countries. And when you kind of look at a tech stack, do you find that there's nuances and different variances that you need to do per region, or would you say that you can do it centrally?
So so that's an excellent question. I think there is obviously nuance, right? So for example, the deal that will work for US will 100% not work for China. So you do need to allow for that, exception. You need to allow for the fact that what you will do will apply to maybe 95% of everything that we are buying, maybe not the full 100%. But I think even broader than that, the kind of framework that we put in place, there are multiple partners, right? So there's not just a Google, there's also an Amazon, there's also a Xandr. Xandr allows for a lot of, ethical DEI, etc. They allow for a lot of transparency. So while we really like them, technology-wise, obviously Google's far more sophisticated. So we need to allow for all of these nuances, and then that tech stack sort of, it will be able to cater to a much wider set of our stakeholders than potentially just saying that, okay, Google and, Google's the only one and, that's the mandate. That doesn't work.
Cool. So I think one of the next ones where it kind of leads us on to is there's obviously a lot of trends in when we talk about things like retail media, and obviously one of the biggest things about this conference is the convergence of like content, retail, and media into that. So the lines are obviously blurring. So talk to us a little bit more about how retail media and how that's creeping into your strategy as a whole.
So I think my designation over there is a little bit outdated, because now I'm also leading DCOM, which is digital commerce, which is like a three-headed beast, right? I am originally a marketing person, and I think digital commerce is the first time that in CPG at least, marketing, retail, which is sales, and tech have had to work together, whether we like each other or not. And we are trying to find the common ground, right? We're trying to find a space where all of us can, bring in our best and get the best out of the channel that's provided to us. In doing so, I think our partners are tremendously helpful. So again, we have Publicis, we have Flywheel, we have technology providers, whether it's Criteo, Citrus. We have, all of these amazing partners that bring in a lot of advantage to that. And just as a company, having, this triangulated approach is providing a lot of benefit in terms of being at the right place at the right time in the digital commerce funnel.
Awesome. So just before we wrap up, I'm not too sure how much time we've got left, but in terms of key takeaways, now there's lots of different ways in which we can look at future trends and different things like this. So if you had to pick 3 exciting innovations and future trends, what would they be?
I think the first one, and anybody, eyes closed, I'll point at somebody, they'll all say the same thing, is AI. Right, and it's not just generative AI that we're talking about, but it's AI for productivity, right? I'm not saying that we're all going to be jobless, but the fact of the matter is that the faster we partner with AI as a help, as a tool of productivity, is going to be amazing. We as Haleon are looking to launch something for ourselves internally to be able to boost our productivity over there. Also, I think Publicis, again, sorry, shout out to you guys, but you are doing a fabulous job in bringing that AI innovation, AI thinking to not just media, but marketing overall, right? So generative AI is a space that we're looking to explore very heavily with respect to, production, with respect to creatives. And we're really hoping that that's one trend that will help take us into the next, into the next level. I think the second one is sustainability. Because like I mentioned, it is about making sure that we are not just marketing for the sake of profits, but we are an organization for the greater good. And again, every leader in my company who I speak to hugely inspires us in doing the right thing for the planet, and that makes us really happy and really proud to be a part of this organization. The third, and probably, in the second one, SeenThis would fit right in. And the third...
Pay you later.
And the third one would be to make sure that we are data driven, but also from a point of consolidation, not just from having 5 different data sets or 50 different data sets to look at, but really being able to bring all of it together to be able to get the right insight out of it, so that we can be a business that's driven by data rather than marketing whims and fancies. So yeah.
Awesome. Good stuff. Now, I don't know if have we got much time left? No. Oh, 1 minute. Perfect. Well, I'd love to thank you, Shruti, for all of that wonderful insight.
Thank you so much, Nick. Thank you. Thanks all, everyone.